I would tell you they were every bit as good as San Francisco on their field on that day, fell just short. Did they make up the gap? That's the question. I think DJ Reader stops the run against teams like San Francisco and Philadelphia. I think the corners that they've brought in, the trade-off is we are going to still blitz, but we're not going to get beat as deep as often because we've upgraded the corner room. That's the trade-off. I think there was a clear addition on the defensive side of the ball, which is what people wanted to see. Does this team still have holes? Sure, we could talk about it. Do you want a fourth option in the passing game? Do you want one more edge rusher for Aiden so you don't have to blitz? Sure. John, what is the biggest issue for this football team still? And do you agree that, yes, they are in that upper echelon of the sport?
For me, it's another edge rusher. And if we get a chance to, talk to Dan Campbell or anybody else on the coaching staff or even Brad Holmes, especially as we get closer to training camp, the question is going to be James Houston.
Yeah.
Do they believe and feel like now that he's healthy and has had another offseason to continue to improve and work on his craft, will he be that threat that we saw at the end of his rookie season?
8 sacks.
Yeah,
he was a game changer.
Oh, he certainly was.
But that's 2 years removed.
Right, 2 years, an injury removed.
Yep.
And we had heard last year at training camp, there was some scuttle that he wasn't doing the same things, and he's not going to be, nor do I think he will ever be a guy that's going to set the edge. So he is going to be a third down pass rush specialist. Can he create and wreak havoc in the backfield so that it benefits Aiden Hutchinson, it benefits Aleem McNeil? And I think Jack Campbell, we talked about him. Jack Campbell can be a big part of wreaking havoc on the quarterback.
They used him a little bit like that.
Yeah, as a stand-up rush guy.
He's not Micah Parsons, but some of that role he played in spurts a year ago, does he have more on his plate in the second year? Of course he will and should.
But for him, it's not going to be lining up on the line of scrimmage. It's going to be just like we talk about creating havoc with blitzing the secondary. Mm-hmm. He should be coming from depth as well.
I want to be clear on something on Campbell. I include him as the top 4 guys last year that are going to be very impactful players on this team.
Mm-hmm.
What I've said about Jack Campbell has been so twisted. He's clearly the 4th. He made the 4th biggest impact of the 4 that were drafted.
And the other 3 were really, really good.
And if you like PFF or you don't, I'm indifferent, but I think it's a tool for us. He was in the mid-50s last year. The other 3 were in the 70s. Look, he was second in the team in tackles. Okay, well, some of that was chasing.
Right.
That's why Anzalone led the team in tackles, because he was chasing a lot, okay? I mean,
well,
look, I'm not trying to tear down
linebacker.
Jack Campbell. I think he's got the most room for improvement. I wouldn't rule out that he could, I think, maybe career-wise be better than Laporta. Probably not. Laporta looks special.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty high bar. He could be the second of the 4.
Yeah, as I look at the roster, the 2 things people bring up, receiver and edge, they bring back their 3 leading pass catchers from a year ago. Receptions, St. Brown, Laporta, and third was Jahmyr Gibbs, who they will continue to use in the passing game. I didn't mention J-Mo, who missed a good chunk of the season, and the expectation should be that he is more involved. Receiver, do you want someone, a guy that plays the Reynolds role? Sure. But I don't think it's this, major concern for a team to be the 5th leading target guy if all goes well. I don't think that's they can't win a Super Bowl because they don't have a 5th option in the passing game. They'll continue to look for guys, and maybe it's Donovan Peoples-Jones or it's a guy who's not even on the roster. The edge is something I think that we may circle back to, just because I don't like that you have to blitz to get pressure. How much of that last year was, hey, Aiden's getting home, but no one's coming from the other side, and guys can step up, they can evade the rush. He's got to get a little better, but part of the offseason goal was collapse the pocket from both sides and not have to blitz to do it. I still feel like that's not their only path, but predominantly the path they're going to have to use.
Yeah, and some of it's going to be the creativity of Aaron Glenn. When do you blitz from the secondary? When do you blitz from a linebacker position? What are you doing? What is the position of Aiden Hutchinson? And with added talent up front with DJ Reader, Davenport can be, when healthy, an effective part of that equation. That's one thing that's kind of maybe the biggest question mark is signed him to a 1-year deal, missed almost all of last year with an injury. Can he be effective in all situations? Because you don't always want to have to bring in that pass rush specialist. That's third and long. Okay, it's obvious.
But you don't want to tip your hand.
You want to be able to rush the passer. Hey, teams are going to throw on first down. Can you put pressure? Can you make that switch from defending the run to rushing the passer?
Let's get to David in Clinton Township. David, did they do enough? Do they have any glaring holes or weaknesses?
Yes. I would make an argument that their biggest need right now is backup quarterback, and I think that's a good thing.
Okay, explain.
Well, this team is poised to make a run. If our quarterback gets injured, that is over. All the other stuff is, well, we could use this guy, we could use this guy. I'm hoping that Houston and Pascal make a step up. And more schemes, and with the better other defensive backs. So I would say the backup quarterback is as of right now the most important thing they should get.
So they have Hendon Hooker. They have Hendon Hooker, but I think a fair point would be he has not played any meaningful snaps at all in the NFL. And if Goff goes down, how do you feel in a Super Bowl or bust year throwing out a rookie who has no live reps outside of what he gets in the preseason? But then the question is, are you carrying a third quarterback on this team? And is there any guy out there who you're adding as a third quarterback that would possibly keep the season afloat? I mean, most teams don't have a backup that's going to win a Super Bowl. So, I mean, the reality is that guy probably doesn't exist.
I think with this year and next year where they're going to have room, it would be a good idea to have a better than just guy to hold the snap. In the next, couple years from now, you're not going to have that luxury when you're paying these guys again. I mean, I remember this is going back years, thinking to myself when Jeff George got hurt, the Vikings were going to tank, and then all of a sudden they brought in this rookie Culpepper and he lit it up. I'm not saying Hooker could do that, and you don't know. So if you really want to make a run, the odds of Goff going 2 years in a row without a significant injury, they're not that great.
Well, David, football's a violent game, and John will nod his head to that.
Yeah.
But when you have a great offensive line, you limit the amount of hits that your quarterback takes. You're definitely nodding your head at that. That's part of the formula here. They've insulated Jared Goff to minimize, not eliminate, but minimize that.
Right, and to minimize just the fact of him moving around in the pocket. Not only do you want to prevent sacks and pressures, you just don't want to even move it around. He's not great at getting outside the pocket.
But his point, okay, if they lose their quarterback, they're in trouble. I mean,
so
I
who's
think
your option?
most teams would say that, though.
Well, yeah. Well, who's your option? Ryan Tannehill? He's about the only one with decent experience that's not signed.
Yeah, I mean, I look around the league. Like, who are some of the best backup quarterbacks? Like Jacoby Brissett, Jameis Winston. I mean, the idea that most teams have someone.
Yeah, I mean, we saw in New Orleans when Jameis Winston was called to duty. It didn't go well.
Alter the end of the game when the Lions played them, that he went in the game instead of Carr. It's one of those things that will forever be brought up on sports radio. Do we have the right backup quarterback? And I think in 30, if not all 32 cities, the answer is no. We don't have a guy who can step in and win the Super Bowl. That's just There's not 32 great quarterbacks, let alone 45 or 50.
Yeah, and the Eagles kind of screwed that one up.
I know. Nick Foles ruins this. Yeah. Well, let's go get a Nick Foles.